characters, incidents, names, and situations used in this story are fictitious. The resemblance to any person living or dead is purely coincidental. The following video contains some horror elements and suitable for a mature audience, 16 plus. This channel and video is not for kids.
Hello friends, I am Aryan and welcome to our channel Midnight Horror Stories, where you get to hear true and scary ghost stories. In our channel, you will get to hear true and scary stories every Tuesday and Saturday. But before starting the story, all the friends who have come to this channel for the first time, please subscribe to the channel, and if you like the story, then definitely introduce yourself in the comment section. Then, let's do not take much time and start our story quickly. Friends, today's story is of a man from Satna district of Madhya Pradesh, whose name is Kamal Prakash. So let's now listen to the story from Kamal Prakash's point of view. Hello friends, my name is Kamal Prakash and I am from Satna district of Madhya Pradesh. Today I have brought a story in front of you people. When you listen to the story till the end, you will realize that many times you do not want to be the victim of many such things from which escaping means getting out of the mouth of death. And something similar happened to me once, remembering which still makes my soul tremble. Actually, it was my dream since childhood that I would also stand in the classroom of a school and work as a teacher to teach children. And I had spent 32 years of my life vowing to fulfill this dream. That is, I have been preparing to become a teacher for the last 10 years. But he was not able to qualify in any government exam, due to which my dream was unfulfilled at that time. But then 7 years ago, once suddenly the result of a primary teacher's exam given by me comes. And as soon as that result comes, I come to know that this time I have been selected for the government teacher. However, by that time I was preparing to recruit a lecturer. But at that time for me, getting the job of this primary teacher was also a straw for drowning. And then age was also coming out on top of that. Because of this, the family told me that you should join this job because now the age has also become so high that it will be difficult to get you married after a few more days. In such a situation, the job will also go out of hand and it will be very difficult to get married. And if you join this job, then after a few days you will get married as soon as the money problem is fixed. Now, after convincing my family to do so, I joined that primary teacher job. But at that time, I had no idea that in the job which I was going to join as my dream, I would one day see something that would make me regret my decision a lot later. Actually, because it was a primary teacher's job, I get to join a small school in a tribal type village about 150 kilometers away from my home. But then there was so much pressure from the family that I was forced to go there. But on the day I had to go there to join, I put all my belongings in a big bag and leave my village in the bus that leaves at 4 p.m. But by the time I reached the village school where I was to join, it was already around 11 p.m. And the reason behind this was that the bus stop next to that village was about 3 to 4 kilometers away from that village. After landing at that place, a distance of 3 to 4 kilometers had to be covered on foot. And I came to know about this when I told the conductor of the bus the name of that village while getting off the bus and asked him how far that village is from here. So as soon as I asked him this, he tells me that you have to walk about 3 to 4 kilometers from here. So now at 8 p.m. on that deserted and jungle road, when there was dense darkness all around and strange animal sounds were coming, seeing all that, for once I felt that I would get back on this bus and go to the front and come here tomorrow morning in the daytime. But then I thought about where I would spend the night going forward. For this reason, I come a long way from there walking on the trail that the conductor of that bus told me to walk. However, when I was walking on that trail towards the village, after walking for a distance of about 1 to 1.5 kilometers, I suddenly hear the sound of someone laughing from there. Now, as soon as the sound of that laugh reaches my ears in the midst of that silence for a moment, I get very scared. But when I look back, no one was behind me or next to me at that time. But I still don't know where the sound of that laugh was coming from. Hearing that voice, I understood that it was the sound of a small child laughing. But what was the child doing in that deserted and forested area at that time of night? It doesn't make sense to me at the time. But then when I walk a little further with my scared steps, I start seeing that village from a distance. the village school where I was supposed to teach the children. But before I reached that village, I can see that school, and there was a big peepal tree next to that school. When I look at that peepal tree, I see that there is a swing under that peepal tree, and a girl is swinging on that swing at that time of night. Now, when I saw that girl swinging there so late at night, I found this thing very strange. But then I hear the same laughing sound again, the voice I heard just a while ago. When I hear that voice, I realize that it is the voice of the girl swinging on that swing. That's why I walked down that trail to the side and walked towards the school grounds, where the girl was hanging under that peepal tree. But the girl had her back on the side I was going from, and the other side had her mouth. That's why as soon as I reach him, when I reach him, I call out to him from behind, "Hey son, who are you? And why are you swinging here so late at night? This is not the time to swing." Now as soon as I say this there, the girl suddenly stops swinging and then turns her neck slightly backwards and looks at me. In such a situation, when I got my first look at that girl, seeing the face of that girl, I felt as if there was some difference between the face of the rest of the children and hers. That is, before that, all the children I had seen in my life, there was an innocence on the faces of those children, and looking at their faces, it seemed as if they were really children. But that night when I saw the girl's face, I felt that there was no innocence on her face. At the same time, the face that she had did not look like a small child to me. In fact, looking at him, it seemed as if a saw was a human being. That is, when a person's age increases, but his height means that his body remains small. So the kind of face she had at that time was exactly the same face I could see of that girl. But she was just like a child. That's why when I look at him, I once again say, "Who are you?" So when I ask this, the girl says to me in a very loud voice that no matter who I am, who are you and what are you doing in my area right now? Now when that child asked me this, I think that she's a very strange child. Instead of answering me, she's asking me questions. But then I ask him, "Son, where is your home? And if you are alone here so late at night, then are you not afraid?" So as soon as I say this, the girl starts laughing strangely and then tells me that my home is here. Now when he said this, I could not see any house in the vicinity of that peepal tree. All the houses in the village were a short distance from there. That's why I don't understand anything about him. But then I say to him, "Well, tell me, what is your name?" So when I ask this, only one word comes out of his mouth, and that was Nalini. But as soon as he said this to me, I heard a voice right behind me, but a little far away. Hearing that voice, I felt like someone was calling me from behind. When I look back, I see an elderly man dressed entirely in white. He is standing there with the help of a wooden pole with a light tan. Seeing the man there, I start walking towards him. But by the time I walked up to him, the old man was staring at me as if he had seen something other than me that he could not understand. That's why as soon as I go there, he says to me, "Hey brother, who are you? And what are you doing in the village at this late hour?" So when he asked me this, I told him that I am the new teacher of your village school and I am joining here tomorrow. That's why I had to come here so late at night. And as soon as I said this, the man laughed and said to me, "Okay, you are Master Sahib." But as soon as he says this, the expression on his face suddenly changes, and I do not know when his laughter turned to anger. Because after laughing in that way, suddenly he angrily tells me that he has made a mistake of coming to this village so late at night. Again, you will not make the mistake of leaving this village after the end of the day, nor will you make the mistake of coming to this village after sunset. Saying this to me, he points to that peepal tree with his eyes and asks me what he was doing under that tree so late at night. So as soon as the old man said this to me, I turned to that peepal tree and point to that peepal tree that I had just said, that as soon as my eyes fall on that tree, I see that now there is neither a swing nor a swing swinging on that swing. The girl who had only said when asked the name that Nalini, yani probably the girl whose name was Nalini, had disappeared from there. Now the girl had disappeared or gone from there, this thing was going to work. I mean, by the time I walked past her to the old man, she might have gone home. But when I didn't even see a swing on top of that tree, I couldn't digest it at all. That's why I look at that and get a little confused. But then suddenly, the old man makes a very loud voice and says to me again, "Hey, what are you thinking about?" But after he said that, I had no words to say to him. That's why I tell him that no, nothing, I just went to that side to see the school. Hearing this from my mouth, the old man tells me that if this is the case, then it is fine. But where will you stay so late at night? Now that he said this to me, I didn't even have the words to answer the old man's words. That's why I just keep looking at him in silence. The old man probably understood my silence. That's why he tells me to spend the night at my house. Find a room for yourself tomorrow. Saying this to me, he takes me with him to his house, and then without asking me about food, he makes me lie on top of a cot next to him and lies down on the cot next to him. However, I couldn't sleep at all that night when the rats were jumping in my stomach for hunger, and on top of that, thinking about that girl, I was really out of my mind as to where the girl had disappeared with the whole swing in the blink of an eye. I didn't know about this at all. But during this time, when I saw the time in the light of that light on my watch in my hand, it was exactly 12:20 at night. That is to say, when I was talking to that girl under that peepal tree, it was probably exactly 12 o'clock in the night. Because then, it took about 20 minutes for the girl to come from the old man and all those things to happen to her. But at exactly 12 o'clock in the night, the thought of that girl swinging under that peepal tree in that way was no longer coming out of my mind. But then, thinking about all this, I didn't even know when it was morning, because in the morning, I had a faint eye. But I had barely completed an hour and a half of sleep when suddenly some water splashed over my mouth, and along with them, I hear a sound in my ears. "Hey Master Sahib, do you plan to stay at my house now? The kids are long gone to school and you are still sleeping." Now as soon as I hear this, I get up from there in a hurry and then wash my hands and face and go back to school without eating anything. However, by that time, my clothes and my own condition had completely deteriorated. But still, when I go to school in the same condition, I get a staff of only 2 people. One of them was a madam and the other was a middle-aged teacher. He was the headmaster of that school. After going there, when I talked to both of them, I came to know that they too are from a tribal village next door. In such a situation, I came to know very well that there is no other person here living in a city like me. But that day, after joining the school, when I talked to the teacher about my living arrangements, he makes arrangements for me to stay in the Panchayat Bhavan of that village. Because apart from that, there was no other house in the village where I could live, because everyone had kacha houses and they were built so much that only their own family could live in them. In such a situation, after talking to the Sarpanch of that village, that Master Sahib got a room opened for me in the Panchayat Bhavan itself. But that Panchayat Bhavan was not very big. It had barely 4 to 5 rooms and looked completely inert in appearance. But the houses in the rest of the village were in a slightly better condition. But the biggest problem was that it was right next to that school and the peepal tree. In such a situation, remembering everything that happened to me under that peepal tree last night and the things that I saw that girl, I do not feel like staying in that Panchayat Bhavan room at all. But still, I was forced to clean all my belongings in a room by myself and set it in it. But I was so tired doing all this that day that I did not even know when I fell asleep in the evening. Then when I woke up around 5 in the morning, I was very hungry because I had not eaten anything that previous night, and even during the day, I was busy cleaning the school and then that room. For this reason, whatever I brought for myself from home to eat lightly, I take it out of my bag and start eating. But I also had to arrange for my food as soon as possible. That's why I think I'll talk to someone in the village about it during the day. But that day when I go to school, as soon as I enter the school gate, I see a girl in school uniform with a bag on her shoulder along with the rest of the children. And that girl was none other than the one I found swinging under that peepal tree that night. In such a situation, when I see her there, I smile a little at her and tell her that, "Hey Nalini, you also come to study in this school?" Then when I ask this, she shakes her neck in yes, and then without saying anything to me, quietly goes inside with the rest of the children, and then I also leave that and go inside. But now that day, as soon as my turn came to teach in a class, when I went to that class, there were hardly 7 to 8 children in it. Because it was a school in a tribal village, there were 50 to 60 children in that whole school. Half of them didn't even come to school. For this reason, the number of children in every class was hardly around 10 to 15. But in the class where I went to teach for the first time, there were only 7 or 8 children, one of whom was Nalini.
but I don't know why she was sitting at the back of that class. That's why I look at him and smile a little at first and then start reading there. But when I was studying there, I felt that the rest of the children and Nalini had a fight because of something. Because none of the children were talking to him or looking back at him. And this seems very strange to me. But then I don't ask those kids anything about it. And I quietly teach and get out of there. But now, while teaching in that school, I started noticing one thing. That every day after the school holidays, the rest of the children used to run towards their homes. Because all the children were very much waiting for the holiday. But Nalini used to go and sit under that peepal tree. For the first 1 or 2 days, I don't say anything to him just by seeing him sitting there. But when I see her sitting under that peepal tree every day, then one day on my way back from school to my Panchayat Bhavan room, I ask her this question, "Hey Nalini, why are you sitting here? Don't you want to go home?" So after hearing this from my mouth, her face became such that it was as if she had no answer to this. And after hearing this, there was such a sadness in her mind that she was seeing the expressions on her face as if she was about to cry. But then I try to calm him a bit and say, "Hey, you don't need to be sad in this way. All I'm asking you is why do you sit under this peepal tree every day after a holiday?" So when I ask this, she tells me that my mother comes to pick me up from here. Now that I heard this from his mouth, I thought that maybe his mother must have gone to pick wood somewhere in the nearby forest. For this reason, Nalini is sitting here waiting for him. Thinking that in my mind, I get out of there. But at that time I had no idea what a big mistake I had made by asking Nalini about this today. Because in the future, something was going to happen to me that I had not imagined at the time when I asked him this. Actually, that day during school hours, I had talked to a woman of the village that she would cook food for both times at her house, and in return, I would give her some money because I did not have any cooking equipment at that time, nor did I know how to cook. That's why around 8 p.m. that night, when I'm walking towards that woman's house for dinner, I feel as if someone is walking right behind me. However, I looked back 2 or 4 times, but I didn't see anyone there. Now let me tell you here that the woman of the village with whom I had a conversation about cooking, the house that woman owned was located a little further away from the rest of the houses. For this reason, I had to go through a similar trail to get there. I came to that village after coming down that road from the same path. Now, when I walk on that trail and go inside through that forest-like area, I see a large hut from a distance, inside which there was a light smoke rising at that time. Seeing the rising smoke, I knew that perhaps the woman had started cooking for me. That is why, as soon as I reach there, when I call from outside, the voice of that woman comes from inside that person. "Hey Master Ji, come inside." So when I went inside that hut, as soon as I went inside the hut, I see someone who I am absolutely stunned to see. Because at that time, there was a girl present there with that woman, and I knew that girl very well.
That's why when I see him, I say to him, "What are you doing here?" But before the girl could answer this, she could give an answer. Even before that, the woman I went to for dinner tells me that this is my daughter. So as soon as I hear this from her mouth, I laugh again and say that, "Good, Nalini is your daughter." Now after hearing this, you must have understood that the girl was none other than Nalini, and the woman who was ready to cook for me was Nalini's mother. Actually, one day when I was returning from school, I met this same woman on the way. That is, Nalini's mother was near that peepal tree when I was asking Nalini, "Why do you come and sit under this peepal tree every day after the holiday?" So after asking her this when I was going towards my room in that Panchayat Bhavan, I met that woman during that time. At that time, in the middle of the road, he stopped me and said, "Master Sahib, you teach in this school, so please take care of my daughter too." But at that time, I forgot to ask the woman what child she was talking about. I just hurriedly tell him that, "Okay, I will take care of your daughter too." But then as soon as I step back a little farther away, I remember the cooking thing in my mind. For this reason, I quickly turn around and stop the woman and tell her that if there is a house in this village in your sight that can give me food both times, then you must tell me. I'll pay for that thing in return. So as soon as I heard this, the woman told me that if you want, I can cook for you. So now when he says that, I tell him the amount of money I could give him every month, after which he told me at the same time that it is okay that you come to my house for dinner from this evening. However, he told me that my house is a little next to the village. For this reason, you will have to come to eat food there. So then I was ready for this thing too, because I thought that walking would be done, and after eating some food at night when I would walk from there and come here, I would also be able to walk around the village. But at that time, I had no idea what a big mistake I was going to make in my life by talking to that woman about eating. And why am I saying this? You will find out this later in the story. Actually, that day when I started sitting there with Nalini and her mother and started eating, while eating I asked both of them that there is no one else in your house other than the two of you? So both of them look at me and fall silent as if I have suppressed one of their aching nerves. I mean, she doesn't give any answer to me. She just keeps staring at me with a silent gaze. For this reason, I also try to lighten the atmosphere by laughing a little while chewing that food and saying that, oh, what I meant to say is that Nalini's father or any other people are not visible in the house. So as soon as I say this, Nalini's mother says that she does not have a father. He died a few years ago. We don't have anybody other than that. Both of us live in this hut. Just now Nalini's mother had said that, when suddenly while chewing that food in the mouth, something comes under my tooth as if it were a bone. That's why when I look at it out of my mouth, it was really a small bone. But I didn't know at the time whether it was an animal or a human. But more importantly, how did that bone end up in my mouth? Thinking of this, I start looking intently at the vegetable inside the plate, but because the light of the light was a little towards Nalini and her mother, because of this, I don't see exactly what was on my plate. So to confirm this, when I ask Nalini's mother what vegetable you have made, she tells me that I have made chicken today. Now as soon as she said this, I start vomiting there because I did not eat non-veg at all and I hated all these things very much. That's why I get a little angry and tell him that he should have asked me before making it. And even if you made it, why did you give it to me to eat? I don't eat it all. Saying this, I leave the plate there and get up from there. But then all of a sudden, Nalini's mother says to me in a loud and strange voice to sit down quietly. If you put it in the plate, then now you have to eat it. You can't insult eating in this way. Now that she said this, I think what a strange woman she is. One is that an animal is being slaughtered and fed me. He didn't mind it, and when I was getting up in the middle of it, it made him feel bad. But I don't know why, when I look into the eyes of Nalini's mother at that moment, what happens to me that I do not have control over myself, and I quietly sit back down and eat that chicken. Now slowly, I started going to Nalini's house to eat in the same way every day, but I didn't discuss it with anyone else in the village. Because now I was going to eat a little more late. That is, on the first day when I went to eat at 8 o'clock, while coming back after eating, Nalini's mother comes a little to the side and tells me that if you come to eat a little later, then it will be good for me too. Because I go to pick wood from the forest and it is evening when I return. In such a situation, there is a lot of household work after coming back, so I won't be able to cook until 8. That's why you try to come by 10-11, because by then I will feed Nalini and put her to sleep. After that, I will be able to work, otherwise when she's playing next to me, she doesn't let me do anything. Now what was the real reason behind Nalini's mother saying this at that time? I didn't know that at all. Because I consider her to be an ordinary woman, understanding her compulsion, I say yes to this thing too.
Because I was getting food in that small tribal village. That was a big deal for me. But gradually I started liking chicken, mutton and everything else so much that I started eating the same thing every day. Because of this, my body was slowly changing slightly. But during that time, I had no idea about what was going to happen to me in the future. Because on that day, when Nalini's mother asked me to come from 10 to 11 p.m., then I arrive a little late the next night. That is, that night, I left my room in that panchayat building around 10:30 p.m. to go to Nalini's house. But let me tell you here that 10:30 p.m. in the village means that the way there is as much peace and silence in the city between 2 and 3 a.m., the same peace and silence is seen in the village only after 8 p.m. That is, by 8 p.m. at most, all the people eat and sleep in their homes. For this reason, when I was going to eat at Nalini's house through the village around 10:30 p.m. that night, during that time, the whole village seemed to me to be a village of men. That is, looking at the silence that prevailed in that village at that time, it seemed as if all the people in the village had died, and I'm the only living human child. But then, after calming down such thoughts arising in my mind, when I reached Nalini's house,
I see that only Nalini's mother was there today. Nalini was nowhere to be seen by me. So when I was sitting inside that hut watching Nalini's mother cooking, so during that time when I ask her about Nalini, she tells me that she has gone to her maternal grandfather's house for a few days. But after hearing this from his mother's mouth, I tell him that then what will happen to his school? His studies will be left behind. So hearing this from my mouth, she looks at me in a strange way and tells me that she has read as much as she had to read long ago. After saying this to me, she started laughing in such a way that seeing her laughter, I could not understand whether to consider this laughter as an ordinary laugh or a sign of some great danger to come. But then she brings food to me, and then when I pick up the thick boats of that mutton and start eating, so during that time when Nalini's mother was sitting very close to me, I started getting a strange smell from her body. At the same time, I also felt as if Nalini's mother was slowly getting closer to me. But I don't know if it is because of that smell at that time or because of the woman that I get so close to me. And that's where something happens between the two of us that I never imagined. I was now feeling the hunger of my body except for the hunger of my stomach. For this reason, after touching each other in a strange way for some time, something happens between me and Nalini's mother which was very wrong in the eyes of the villagers. But I don't know why I didn't have control over myself at that time, and I do something there that I never imagined would happen to that woman. But now it was all a day-to-day affair between me and him. Whenever I went to her for dinner at night, it started happening every night before we had dinner. However, I used to go to eat in the morning too, but in the morning the people of the village used to come and go from that forest-like area. For this reason, I was afraid that if someone came towards that hut by mistake and he saw me and Nalini's mother in that condition, then there could be a problem. In such a situation, both of us used to do all that at night. But ever since I started doing all this with that woman, I slowly started feeling very weak in my body. I felt as if my body was not feeling what I was eating, or I can't feel the energy of my body. In such a situation, I fall ill in a few days. Because of this, I have to take a day off from school as well. But during the time I was ill, Nalini's mother cooked food for me during the day and brought it to my panchayat room. But when I was lying there on the cot, even in that condition, she started doing some things with me, due to which my arousal overwhelms me even though I'm in fever. And then the same thing starts happening between me and him there. But due to that excitement, both of us were so engrossed in each other that both of us didn't even consider it necessary to close the window of that room of mine, or rather, we didn't pay attention to it. And at the same time, the headmaster of that school passes by that window. When he passes by that side, he hears strange voices of me and Nalini's mother. That's why when he comes to that window and sees both of us doing all that in that room, he starts scolding me and Nalini's mother with a loud noise. But as soon as this thing happens, the woman points at me with her finger and immediately locks my room and leaves from there. But I don't know why he leaves there, but till evening I do not get any call from the headmaster of that school, nor does he himself come. But that night my health deteriorated so much that I could not go to Nalini's house to eat food from her mother's hand. That's why I fell asleep early that day. But then, as soon as I fall asleep, my eyes are opened by a loud sound. And as soon as I open my eyes, I realize that the night has become quite deep, because there was a very strange kind of silence all around. But even in the midst of that silence, I could hear something that was very strange to me. That's why when I pick up my mobile and look at the time in it, it was 3 o'clock in the night. In such a situation, when I was hearing that sound at that time, at first I thought that a wild animal had come, because that voice was a strange growling sound. For this reason, when I slowly opened that window of my room, out of that window I could see the area of the peepal tree in front of the school and the rest of the open space. But this time, as soon as I opened that window and looked outward, I saw something that had slipped from under my feet. Actually, I see that at that time, a fat man is hanging from that peepal tree. Now, seeing this thing, my condition there was bad, but when I looked at it closely, I couldn't see his face clearly in the dark, but I had never seen anyone in the clothes he was wearing. But at that time, I could not remember who could be such a fat man in the village whom I had seen wearing those clothes earlier in the day. But then I remembered that he was the headmaster of the school. Now, as soon as I remember this, I open the door of my room even though I'm in a fever, but when I open the door, I feel very scared. For this reason, when I slowly go towards that peepal tree with a lot of subdued steps, along with the hanging corpse of that headmaster, I also see two shadows under that peepal tree. When I look at those shadows, I see that out of those two shadows, one shadow was of an adult person, and the other shadow was of a child. But at that time, I did not know anything about who those two shadows were standing there, because as far as I could see at that time, only the shadows of those two were falling. That's why I go a little further. But during this time, something hits my foot, which has a very loud sound, and as soon as that sound is there, both those shadows start coming towards me. But as they were coming towards me, my heartbeat started increasing so fast that at that time I did not know what to do now. But then I run away and hide behind something. Now that I hid there, I could see everything outside, but on the outside, I couldn't see whoever they were. But then I see something that makes my eyes burst open, because those two shadows were none other than Lavanya and her mother. Now, seeing the two of them near that headmaster's corpse so late at night doesn't make any sense to me at all. But then I think in my mind that maybe Nalini's mother killed the headmaster because she saw me and him in that condition. Now, before I can think or understand anything else, Nalini and her mother go back to that peepal tree. But now that I have seen both of them there, then I get up from there completely fearless and start going towards that peepal tree. Because at that time, I thought that they were both Nalini and her mother. But going that way, I had no idea what a big mistake I was making in my life by going there. Because as soon as I get there, I hear that strange growl and chew and eat something. For example, when a wild animal makes another animal its prey, it tears it and eats it in that way. I was hearing the same sound there. But as soon as I go near that peepal tree, I see something there that makes my soul tremble. Actually, at that time, Nalini and her mother were placing a clay pot under the corpse of the headmaster and collecting the blood dripping from his corpse in that earthen pot. Along with this, she had cut both the legs of that headmaster and was sitting there eating with each leg. But when I see them eating all that, the reason for my biggest fear during that time was that at that time, the face of Nalini and her mother was completely changed. At that time, looking at his appearance, it did not seem that he was a living person. In fact, strange teeth were protruding from his mouth, and his eyes were completely white like an egg. Seeing all this, now I start remembering everything that I did to Nalini's mother for so many days. But before I can think or understand anything else, I feel someone's hand on my shoulder from behind me, and as soon as I feel that thing, I make a panicked sound. And when I quickly turn around, there was none other than Lavanya's ma. But this time, she was in front of me in no ordinary way. In fact, she was in the same horrible state in which I was watching her eat the corpse of the headmaster. But seeing his scary appearance, I start feeling very dizzy there, and then, due to fear, I fall unconscious there. I don't know anything about what happened to me there after that, but when I open my eyes, I find myself in the same Panchayat Bhavan room. But the strange thing was, I did not understand at that time whether what I had seen at night was a dream or a reality. But then I think to myself that what happened cannot be a dream. But now, no one in my village had the courage to tell me about it. That's why I behave exactly the same in front of everyone, just like I used to the rest of the day. That is, I try to be completely normal. But again and again, the same question kept echoing in my mind, that the headmaster had seen me and Nalini's mother doing all that in reality, because I wasn't in any sleep at the time. But if I saw all that in my dream last night, and the headmaster is really alive, how will I make eye contact with him? And if he is dead, and what I saw last night was not a dream, but a reality, then shouldn't I not consider that thing as a dream and go to Nalini's house for dinner?
Now, as soon as such things start going in my mind, then during that time I do not understand what to do in the end so that everything becomes clear in front of me. But at that time, I had no idea that there was still a lot to happen to me, because at that time,
When I was standing at the door of my Panchayat Bhavan, when I was thinking about all these things, at the same time I see a lady staff in that school coming from the direction of her house, and seeing me standing there, she calls out to me and says that, "Hey, Master Sahib, will you stand there, or will you also open the gate of the school? Look at the children gathered above the gate on that side." Now when I hear this from that madam, then I immediately go and open the door of the school, and after that, the day starts in a very normal way like the rest of the days. But two things were very strange that day. First of all, I could not see the headmaster anywhere in the entire school, nor was there any corpse hanging on top of that peepal tree, nor was there a noose. And the second thing was that Nalini did not come to school that day. For this reason, I think in my mind that if I had a dream, then a few days ago, Nalini's mother had said that Nalini has gone to her maternal grandfather's house, so maybe it might. That's why she's not coming to school. But last night, I saw those two, mother and daughter, in such a horrible form. Now at that time, all these things had become like a maze for me, which I could not solve. But somewhere in all this, I could see my death. That's why I think that day that I will leave this school today and run away to my city forever and never come back here again. Now thinking about such things in my mind, when I make up my mind that day, I have to leave this village this evening. So after the school holidays, when I was coming back from that school to the Panchayat Bhavan room, my eyes suddenly went under that peepal tree. And when I look there, I see some light fallen on the grass that was dry under that peepal tree. Now seeing that thing from a distance, I have some courage to go right under that tree, and when I look at it, I see that there was a lot of blood lying there. Along with the grass, the soil there was also completely illuminated. Now seeing that blood in that place makes me believe that everything I saw last night was not a dream, but a reality, and this blood belongs to no one else but the headmaster. Now seeing that thing, I understood that maybe the next number was mine, or the number was mine, but by mistake the headmaster had come in between. Thinking of this, I quickly go to that room, and as soon as it gets a little dark in the evening, I quietly go out of there on the road without telling anyone, because at that time I was hoping that I would find some way to the city from that road. But I had forgotten that it was the road to a tribal village where only one bus left during the day, and that too before 4 in the evening. In such a situation, when I was walking on that trail towards the road, it was more than 6 in the evening, then I couldn't get any lift on that road. But because at that time I was so afraid of saving my life that I had forgotten all these other things. I had also forgotten that to reach that road, I would have to go for about 3 to 4 kilometers through that forested area and along that trail to reach that road. And then even after reaching the road, for about 40 to 50 kilometers, that road used to pass only through the forest area. In such a situation, my going that way in the evening was my biggest mistake, and I had to pay a compensation for this mistake in the future, which I had never even dreamed of. In fact, when I left that trail around 6 p.m., I had been walking for over an hour, and I had almost covered the halfway point. But by then, there was a thick darkness of night and strange animal sounds all around, because of which I was looking around again and again as I walked. But during this time, I hear the sound of a woman laughing strangely from the middle of that forest, and hearing that voice, my walking steps stop there. Because when I heard that voice, I felt that maybe that voice was coming from behind me. But when I look back, I can't see anything behind. That's why I start walking back slowly forward. But when I was walking up that trail, there were a lot of dry leaves of trees. A strange sound was coming from my feet while walking on them. But during that time, instead of one person walking, I start hearing the sound of two people walking. I mean, I could hear someone other than me walking right behind me. But at that time, I was so scared that I didn't even have the courage to turn around and see who was following me. And soon, my fear increased so much that I stopped walking and start running very fast before looking backwards. But at that time, I had 2 bags on my shoulders and a lot of stuff in them, because of which they had a lot of weight. So I couldn't even run very fast with a bag that had that much weight. And how long would he run? And how long would he run? Because that forest area had just begun. In such a situation, I couldn't run and go across it. But when I started running, I also heard the sound of whoever was behind me running. But then, when I dared to slowly look backwards, I burst to 75 as soon as I looked backwards, because at that time, no one else was running after me but Nalini's mother. Now at that time, she was in front of me not in an ordinary way, but with a very horrible and scary face. The same face as I had seen the headmaster while hanging him on the gallows. Now seeing that scary face of hers, my gig sits down out of fear, because of which I am not able to say anything there. But then there is some strange rustling in the adjacent bushes. Feeling the rustling at first, I thought that perhaps a wild animal was coming out. But then I see that it is not a wild animal, but Nalini who comes out of it. And at that moment, his face looked exactly as scary as his mother's.
But before I understand anything else, now I hear a strange rustle from the other side as well. And then a third person comes out of there. But that third person was none other than the headmaster of that school. But now the headmaster's face was cut from place to place as if someone had scratched him badly. That is, his face looked so badly crushed that everyone's heart would come to the mouth when he saw that face. But now the 3 of them were standing in front of me as if they were going to kill me right there. In such a situation, I do not understand what to do so that I can escape from these 3. Because by that time, I understood very well that this is not a living person, but a wandering soul. And the headmaster who was standing in front of me was also not a living person. In fact, since he was killed by Nalini and his mother, his soul had probably been with both of them. But then I remember that while leaving the house, my grandmother gave me something inside a bag and told me that if you are going to a rugged village area, there are many things that are not in your area, and even if they happen, there are very few things. But in such a place, all these things have a lot of influence. In such a situation, whatever I am giving you, you should keep it with you, and whenever you feel that you have such a problem, then you use it. Now as soon as I remember this, I remember with an emphasis on my mind that whatever my grandmother had given me, I had put it inside the water bottle next to the bag. Now as soon as I remember this thing, I slowly move one of my hands towards the bag that was kept next to the bag given by my grandmother and quickly take out that bag and throw whatever was in it on top of the 3 of them. After that, I pour the whole thing on myself. And then, in a frenzy, I run away from there and start walking towards the road. That night, I ran so fast and so far for the first time in my life. I had spent the whole night running on that forested road, because as soon as I realized that someone was coming close to me, I would run back. And by about 8 in the morning, I had almost half completed that forest road. But then I fall unconscious right there. And when I open my eyes, I find myself inside a hospital in the city. Now about who brought me there and how I got there, I didn't even know that. But later the hospital people told me that I was taken there by a milkman who used to collect milk from the village and deliver it to a factory in the city. When he found me in that condition on the road, he picked me up from there. But after that, I never rejoined that school and got myself transferred from there with a little approach.
So friends, this was our story today. How did you like the story? Please do tell me by commenting in the comment box. And also, those who haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please subscribe to the channel. Take care of yourself and your family. I will meet you soon with a new story. Thank you.